Welcome back to another live episode of Hail Yes, a Michigan football and basketball podcast by the Detroit Free Press. I'm Andrew Burkle, of course, joined by our Michigan beat writer, Tony Garcia. And Tony, man, we thought we'd have an episode this week. We thought we'd be discussing the NBA draft. So I guess we did have some premonition we'd be talking about the NBA, but we did not think we'd be talking about this. Dusty May has left Michigan basketball to take the head coaching gig with the Dallas Mavericks. A shocker on some level because we didn't expect it to be now, right? Like everyone knew that Dusty had some NBA goals, but for it to happen like this and for it to happen towards the end of June, I think the timing caught everyone off guard, right?
I agree totally, Andrew. That was sort of my, after the story of Dusty leaving, that was my initial write-up yesterday and takeaway. It's not surprising in the general sense that Dusty May would eventually at some point leave for the NBA. He was a red hot name in coaching circles. He's a guy who loves hoops. I mean, he's junky in that respect. And he has been just climbing the ranks his whole career, right? He was a basketball manager for Indiana. He was a video analyst for USC. He was a graduate assistant. He was an assistant at the Group of Five level. Then he was an assistant in the Power Four level. Then he was a head coach at the Group of Five level. Then he was a head coach, obviously, at Michigan. Won it all this last year. And it felt like he was planning on returning, at least for this season, right? I mean, he and Warde had worked out in principle a deal to get him to come back. I sat down with him last week. They were still ironing out a few of the details, but I mean, Dusty said on the national media car wash tour that he was going on earlier this offseason that he felt like when they agreed on it and shook hands, in his mind, the deal was done. And it was just a formality of signing it, which he expected to happen in July. We'll get into the timing of that maybe more later, but I mean, it was just last year where they agreed to a deal in principle in February in 25, and then it was signed in July of 25. So sometimes that's just the timeline and the nature of how they had done it previously. I mean, there was some precedent for it not happening like, oh, hey, we signed it or we agreed to it. Let's sign it this weekend. There's a lot that needs to happen on both sides, agents, buyouts, making sure everything lines up. But the fact that it just happened, I mean, this quickly, right? Overnight, almost. This past weekend, he was really when he was mulling it over, and he went into Kyle Church was up at in Flint yesterday at the Boys and Girls Club Flint at a golf outing, and he was speaking and said that he went in to tell the decision was made Sunday night. He went in to tell Warde on Monday. And but the news had leaked from ESPN even before Dusty was able to get into Warde's office. So shocking in the timing and the way that it happened, but he never ruled out the NBA as an idea. I mean, I was meeting with him last week, and he was sort of mapping out the things that he would need in order to make a leap like that someday. I mean, this was like a theoretical discussion, not like, this is about to happen in 5 days. He obviously felt that Dallas had a lot of things that there's something, right? Like he didn't leave for North Carolina when there was all these rumors of like, oh, going to a blue blood, or a more historical blue blood than Michigan is. And so it's not that Michigan wasn't competing or enticing to stay in the college ranks, but the NBA is its own animal. It's a different challenge, and it's one that Dusty really wanted to take on now.
What's your biggest takeaway from this? Because I think there's so many things that will hurt for Michigan fans, right? Like on one level, you thought you had your next guy, right? Like here's your beeline. He's going to be running it back for years to come. Okay, so that hurts, right? You have a loaded team next year who is looking like a top 5 team in the country, assuming they get the coach right and assuming they're able to keep a lot of their guys that they've brought in this last offseason. Plus you have the title defense, right? You're going to be raising it. You're going to have banner stuff. You're going to have all these epic rematches and title game implications where they had the Duke game from last year. I just feel like there's so many things that are going to have like last year's title on it, right? And you wanted Dust to be part of that. So like, what do you think hurts the most for Michigan fans right now?
I think it might depend which one you ask, right? And I mean, when you say all that, it just makes me think about, you're going to look at everything like hindsight is 2020, right? And you're going to look back at things differently. I mean, they raised the banners in Chrysler after the national championship parade, right? Because he's like, and you could see it. I mean, they're going to have 3 guys go in the NBA draft tonight. Will Cheddar's playing overseas, Roddy Gale and Amari Burnett, they're all on to the future. And I mean, Malik Cordell and Winters Grady transferred to elsewhere in the Big Ten to Minnesota, right? And so Dusty was like, this is the last time for some time at least, that we will have this whole group together and we want all of us to celebrate it and bring those banners up. Now it's like, you'll get the conspiracy theorists like, was Dusty planning on an exit? He knew he wasn't going to be there for this. Like, it's not anything like that. But then, they're opening the season or like in the first week with a rematch against Connecticut for the national championship game, right? They're going to play Duke again. It's not finalized. Sounds like, looks like, feels like it's going to be in Miami right around that Christmas time, a few days before. But my takeaway is just that like two things can be true, right? Like you're hearing a lot of people saying, is that like how much of this is to blame on the current college basketball landscape? And I think that, that's certainly it's part of it, right? Like I don't think you could say that's none of it at all. There's just so many non-hoop specific related aspects of the college game: recruiting, fundraising, meeting with donors, traveling all around the country to do these things. All of that is tiring, not in the sense that Dusty was like running low on energy, but it's just taking him away from what he wants to be doing, which is coaching. And then like I think something that really illuminates this or illustrates this is how Michigan won the national championship on Monday, April 6th, right? It was like 11:45 p.m. by the time they get the stanchion or the risers up in the middle of Lucas Oil Stadium court. They're cutting down the nets. They're watching the one shining moment montage. The clock is hitting midnight and the transfer portal is opening. And Dusty is having to talk with staffers about like, should we get on a Zoom with a couple of these guys, guys who we think are some of our top targets, or should we just enjoy this with our team and get to them in 7 hours at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., right? Like not long after. He's not talking about kicking this can down the road a week. Obviously, they ultimately decided just to keep it internal and celebrate with the team. And then they started Zooms that next morning. But that's how immediate and 365 the college job is. And that's not the X's and O's. That's not game planning. And so the other thing is like, there is the NBA aspect of this, right? We talked about it. It is the highest level of sport. Dallas is a big market. Cooper Flagg is a rising star. They do have a top 10 pick tonight. They've got something like $60 million in cap space. So Dusty didn't just leave for the NBA. He probably could have done that in the past few months where his name was always popping up, the Magic and other jobs from my understanding. But he picked a spot he really just felt was too good to turn down. So that's really what I'm wrapping my mind around. Just that I think people are trying to say it's either this or that. Both things can be true.
Something that stuck out to you that you said there was like in those post-game celebrations, like Dusty was thinking about this, right? And he had the Zooms lined up the next morning, and he's good at selling these people. Like part of what's so shocking about this decision is that Dusty was so good in the NIL and transfer portal world. Like there's different ways of going about it, right? And I think Michigan State also has a top 10 team coming back next year, built completely differently. So there is different ways to do this. But as far as just looking at this modern way the best way to do it and how most people are doing with the transfer portal and supplementing it with high school, Dusty was the model. He was the example that people were using. And he's like wiping his hands clean. I'm done with it, right? That's, I think, what also is shocking to college basketball fans, to Michigan fans, is that this guy is saying, hey, this is ridiculous. Even though he was 2 for 2 in nailing the transfer portal. Well, I guess you could say 3 for 3, really, because he got Danny Wolf and Vlad in the first one. And then the second one, he got put together a national championship team. And the third one, the team he's never going to get to coach, was looking equally as strong as the other two. So this guy was like brilliant at it, and he even hated it.
All well said. It's a great point. His talent identification, if in my mind, outside of his, sidelines out of bounds and baseline out of bounds, which he in a recent conversation called the special teams, which I liked. It's kind of like all that in between stuff, like the third phase of a football game. He's exceptional at all of that. But the transfer portal, landing targets. I remember they really were saying how they were 6 for 6 in that first year, bringing in, even Roddy Gale Jr. and Reuben Jones and other players and Trey Donaldson, in addition to some of those bigger names who we look back at even more with Danny and Vlad. And then, tonight it's 11:14 a.m. on Tuesday, right? So in about 10 hours, Michigan will, barring something completely shocking, have 3 more first-round NBA draft picks. Dusty will have brought in 5 guys in the front court through 2 years. All 5 of them will be in the NBA. 2 of them will four of them will have been first round draft picks, right? And two of them, like Vlad and Yaxel, only had 1 year left. Yaxel, he turned into an All-American, right? He was the Big Ten Player of the Year. He was everything that the number one player in the portal was billed to be. But Danny Wolf wasn't expected to make the leap in 1 year. Adai Morez Johnson Jr. I mean, Morez maybe, but Adai and Danny, they weren't really on NBA radars before going to Michigan. And now they're going to be top 25. And I mean, Adai might be a top 10 pick. He might go to Dallas, right? And it's not just because, I mean, he very well might not, but if he does, it's not just because Dusty's taken over there, right? It's because he has moved himself into the position where he's frequently being mocked in, if not the top 10, the top 12. And then this year, it sort of felt like he was kind of building more for the future, right? I mean, they have a ton of freshmen. They got like 6 freshmen right now who are coming in, 2 McDonald's All-Americans in Brandon McCoy and Quinn Costello, right? You got Joseph Hartman, you got Lincoln Cosby, someone who, I mean, he tore his ACL. He's a project, so to speak, right? And in the sense that he's probably not going to be able to impact the team this year, but he liked his upside for the future. And so you thought Dusty's always looking ahead. He's always thinking down the line, but things change quickly, right? I don't think this was some big master plan to leave Michigan high and dry. I think he had to make a tough decision, and this is what he wanted to do. And it's going to come with a massive pay raise. It's going to come with a lot less of the extracurriculars. And he felt like now was the chance to take the leap.
A brand new president of basketball operations in Masai Ujiri, who has a championship pedigree and just literally got hired this offseason, so he comes in at the same time as his boss, right? There's no risk of this is a crossover between the two administrations. So a lot of things went for it. Real quickly, we're going to take a quick break in a second here and then talk about some of the ripple effects. Mike Boynton, who was just on the show a couple weeks ago, and even do a little bit of a blame pie of who takes the blame for this. But real quick, Jon Scheyer, Duke's coach, who Michigan faced this year, he's done, by all accounts, an exceptional job taking over from Coach K and keeping the program rolling, but does not have a national championship. He turned down, reportedly, we know obviously weren't in the room, he reportedly turned down the Dallas job, and then Dusty ended up accepting it. Does that mean anything to you? Or is there anything, is there a fair aspect of Michigan where it's going to say, what does Duke have that we don't, that they were able to keep Scheyer?
I'm not going to blame any fans for feeling how they feel, right? Especially on a day like this, when you got a guy like Dusty, he's everything. He did 64-13 in 2 years. He won the Big Ten regular season, the tournament, the Natty. I mean, he was everything that you could dream of, right? So you're going to feel some type of way. Now, I mean, if you do say, what does Duke have that we don't have? I mean, this is Duke, right? Like, Duke is the preeminent basketball power, but also Dusty May didn't play for Michigan. Like, Jon Scheyer was a star for Duke. He was a Duke fan growing up. They got pictures. I mean, Duke was posting to their social media pictures of young Jon Scheyer. I don't know how old he was. He looks like maybe he was like 7 or 8 or something in a Duke Blue Devils shirt, and he hadn't won the Natty, right? So maybe he feels like, hey, the NBA is going to be there. I got some unfinished business. I want to cement myself as a legend, both as a player and a coach here at Duke. I don't want to just and this is an unusual time to leave, right? Like, most coaches are not leaving for the NBA in June. I mean, the last coach that left off a national title was Larry Brown in 1988 from Kansas. And I think they were going to be facing some sanctions the following year, right? And what really sort of is like a salt in the wound moment, I mean, especially for Michigan fans, the last college coach who left directly for the NBA, John Beilein, right? And Michigan had gone to the national title game against Villanova and they fell short. And then he test things out with the Cavs. And so I'm sure there's a semblance of, and of course, Jim Harbaugh, right? He wins a Natty and then he goes to the Chargers. I mean,
it feels the same, right? I mean, it all feels like
but that one was different.
They're all different. It's very different. Beilein and Dusty are very different, but it's all such a similar situation, right? Like, it's a similar result, I should say. In the situation behind it is different, but I can see why Michigan fans are like, what the heck? Why does this keep happening? At the same time, they do have such a strong brand, right? Like, that there is high visibility on these coaches, right? I mean, Jim Harbaugh was probably the most talked about college coach in the country for a decade, right? Even John Beilein, Michigan's brand was able to boost up that program a little bit into more about like, oh, it's Michigan. Oh, remember the Fab Five? Remember, like, there's just that strong brand there. And I think that there's going to be naturally more eyes on them. So I think that's part of potentially it as well. JP2 Inc. Left us his comment. So thank you to JP2 Inc. Let's get to that real quick before we take a break. He said, as screwed up as college athletics are, it's still a better game than the NBA. Surprised Dusty left. Subjective, I would say, the NBA sometimes is a little bit of a cleaner product, although there was a lot of physicality in the last postseason. Our columnist, Sean Windsor, had a conversation with Dusty not too long ago, and he heard him talking a lot about like just how much he loved the X's and O's and in the Oklahoma City versus San Antonio series. I think coaches still view the NBA as the creme de la creme, like the top level. I totally understand why college fans feel that way about the college game, right? They're so attached to it. The environments are exceptional on a Tuesday in Kansas, right? So there's good parts and bad parts of both, but I think coaches still view the NBA as the top level.
I agree. And I mean, I see what JB2 is saying, right? Like sometimes the regular season, especially just with the product, right? You got 30 teams or whatever. It feels like maybe 18 of them are truly functional and 10 to 12 of them are like really going for it. Whereas in college, you don't have to have national championship aspirations to really be going for it night in, night out, right? There's rivalry games. You can be fighting to get on the bubble and then know you can make a run. There's just so many layers to success, right? Like it could be a rebuilding year, and a rebuilding year in the NBA. It's not like, oh, great, we went 40-42 and lost in the playoff play-in game, right? Like that's not like now you have a worse draft pick, and it doesn't build on itself necessarily in the way that if you have some proof of concept in college, maybe you can land some better prospects, right? Maybe it's like, hey, here's the new regime. We just took this step. You see what our system's going to be. We want you to help take us over the top. In the NBA, college is obviously a lot now and way more than ever before about money, but the NBA is still, you just feel like there's more than a hand. I mean, it was a tank off this year at the bottom, right? And so I see what JP2 is saying in that regard. But overall, I mean, the NBA is the highest level of basketball in the world, right? Like, especially when they're trying and when everything's on the line. The playoffs are exceptional.
And the shot making is absurd, and coaches have systems in place that they love to establish and try to like outcoach each other. So I don't know. It's a good question by JP. And we'll get to his second question here in a second after we take a quick break. All right, and we are back. We're going to be talking about the ripple effects of this entire situation in just 1 second. JP fired a second question. So he said, do we know how much Dusty's going to make in Dallas? He was set to make $5 million at Michigan. It actually, was it slightly more than the $5 million at Michigan? I thought with this new contract, it was going to be more, right?
It was going to go up. It was going to go up. I mean, I saw someone say, who I don't know how plugged in they are, so I'm not even going to say it, but someone said that Dusty was going to be the highest paid coach in college basketball. I don't know about that. I was not able to, once the contract is signed, we at the Free Press and can obtain it pretty quickly. But as we know, it was not signed, right? So it was not a done deal. Last year, for perspective, when Dusty signed the extension in 25, the base salary was $4.6 million, and he made $500,000 in bonuses, going to the Final Four, winning the Natty, Coach of the Year, winning the Big Ten. And so he ended up getting 5.1 this last year. I think it was going to go up significantly, but in Dallas, it's definitely going to be more, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if instead of 7 figures, it's probably 8 figures, probably upwards of $10 million. I think Jason Kidd was just making $10 million a year for the Dallas Mavericks, and they fired him. Right. So you got to figure that's
more than that,
right around where it starts, if not more. And then there's no state income taxes in Texas. I'm not saying Dusty did this solely because of money, but that's not the difference of like pennies, right? Like, that is literally the difference of a couple $1 million. So $12 million in Texas is like $15 million in Michigan with what you take home.
It seems like college basketball salaries are still slightly behind the NBA ones, while college football salaries are like oftentimes higher than the NFL salaries. It's still a little bit of a catch up for college basketball coaches, partially because so much of that money is going towards the football programs, I think, across the country, right?
Football's the cash cow. Football, everywhere. Football, even if you're Kentucky, football will still draw more money. There's more seats. There's more
Indiana.
eyes. Powerhouse, football powerhouse, Indiana.
Yeah. They probably made more money off this last football season than they have the last 4 basketball seasons combined. Easily, with the championship run. And so that's the crazy world that we live in right now. So let's get into the ripple effects. Mike Boynton named the interim coach by Michigan pretty quickly after this all went down. Partially, I think that was so fast because Michigan was supposed to be practicing this week, right? They're getting their summer practices going. And someone's got to be at the helm here and making decisions. And partially because he's a very qualified dude, right? Like he was in Ann Arbor for 2 years under Dusty. Before that, he's a head coach at Oklahoma State, brought that program through a tough time, got them Kate Cunningham, which was no small feat. So this is a guy who knows what he's doing. He's a person that all the players are familiar with, and he knows a lot about basketball. So what was your takeaway on that?
Yeah, well, to be clear, Michigan has not publicly named Mike Boynton Jr. the interim, but
yeah, thank you.
That is the direction this is headed, and at this point seems only a formality of when that happens.
Yeah, there's been multiple reports from all different outlets that it's coming, right?
Yes. No, I've been told directly that it's coming, right? So that is the expectation. But as far as what I make of it, Michigan is in, and there's a negative connotation with this phrase. I don't mean it negatively, but it is a tough situation right now. Michigan's in a bit of damage control mode right now, right? When you name a new coach, 5 days after that, the transfer portal will open for your players who can go shop themselves around, right? They can enter the portal and see what they want to do. Now, they could enter the portal and then come back, but they can go in the portal. Whereas previously, this thing at the end of April, this thing would have been locked down and your roster is your roster. And so now what Michigan does have, and I use the term loosely, going for it, is a lot of teams' rosters are set. Right? Like you filled it up. You were not expecting something like this to happen with a team with a ton of talent to maybe be purged. And I mean, teams have used up their NIL. They've filled out their rosters. There are a few exceptions here and there. I think like a team like St. John's that's going after an international prospect. Hey, maybe you just pivot. Maybe you don't know if you can get them into school, if the eligibility is going to work out, how the NCAA is going to see it. So, hey, let's go. Say it was a 2-guard, right? Like, let's go see if we can. And they've got money, right? Let's see if we can go throw $3.5 million at Trey McKinney and pull him away. Now, I mean, Trey McKinney maybe is a bad example because he's been pretty much the most outspoken player to this point. He was tweeting on X last night about how essentially it was a those who stay thing. He said, victors always stay, #hail, #go blue, which I took to mean his plan is to stay in Ann Arbor. And he was up at the Flint Club thing as well. There were a few outlets up there who were reporting what he was saying. On3 was one of them, saying that he's trying to keep the band together, so to speak, right? And so that's the real ripple effect here, is what happens to the players. And I believe Michigan felt, not only is Mike Boynton Jr., all the things you said, he's coached at the high level. He learned a ton under Dusty May, so he's said the past couple of years, but he's really ingratiated in the staff. The players love him. Their families love him. He's respected in the program. And they feel this is the best way to keep that continuity. Because first and foremost, Michigan needs to keep its roster together for this year in order to be competitive this season. And the thing about the interim tag is if it works out, great. Hey, maybe we extend you. Maybe you earned it and you proved that you can handle it at this level. And if it doesn't go as well, we were kind of behind the 8 ball now anyway, because Dusty he didn't leave you high and dry, but he left at a pretty late moment. And so
high, maybe not dry, half of the high dry. He just left you high.
Yeah. And so now now this season is not what we had originally expected it to be. Right. So there's some justification for why it might not go well. Now fans don't want to hear that. You want to hear it's going to go well. And what hurts the most if it doesn't is how positioned and poised they appeared to be to have another great season. But Mike Boynton is a steadying force. He has ties to everybody on this roster. You figured that he would be able to keep more people than if you try to do some expedited search in the next few weeks, try to poach somebody away from their program. Maybe in a normal situation, they would not have been your first candidate. But right now it's hey, this is a pretty good thing. I think we can win with him. Let's take the shot. Who knows how players jive with whatever his messaging, whoever that might be, when he comes in, maybe that would lead to more people leaving. And then because portals aren't open elsewhere, you're so limited in how you could backfill your roster. It could just be a really tumultuous situation.
For sure. Fire Warde, I'm unfortunately afraid there might be more than one of those type of handles out there right now. Says, so is he coaching this season? Is this story done till basically February? Honestly, this is something that Tony and I were debating yesterday. I was kind of giving him a little pushback, until they kind of go out there and say hey, he's coaching through the entire season. I still kind of want to hear them say that. because interim technically could mean a couple things, right? But Tony's impression very much so is that he's coaching this team through March, right? Not even past February.
That's the thinking. And again, given that Dusty just left like this, I hope everybody can see how fluid these things are, right? And ESPN broke the news. Like Trey McKenney said that he found out on social media because Dusty was not even able to meet with the team because it leaked out through ESPN, right? So there's a lot of things that can be said one way and happen another way.
Is that through the NBA side, do you think? Like Dallas told Shams or that's what it seems
Shams
to be.
The one who broke it.
Right. That's what it's got to be. Because I was trying to how did that get out so fast? But it's got to be just the NBA whirlwind that happens there. Because I highly doubt that Dusty was in a hurry to leak that.
I think once Dusty made his decision, he was happy for it to be known, but he would have at minimum wanted to be the one to tell his players and his staff and not have them find out while he's on his way into the facility. And so, but no, the thinking is, I think if they were going to do an active search this year, they would have called Mike Boynton Jr. the acting head coach and not given him an interim tag. An interim tag, from all the indications I've been given, is the 26-27 season. He will be serving as the interim head coach for this year, and then moving forward, they will reassess in the future. But then there's questions about who's his staff, right? Like the number one name that I have my eye on is Kyle Church, who is Michigan's general manager and an assistant coach. He and Dusty have been tied at the hip for, going on almost a decade at this point. They were together at FAU. I think they were together at Florida. He obviously brought him to Michigan. GM is a massive, massive role. It's, scheduling, recruiting, a lot of the things that Dusty still has to do, Kyle does even more of, right? And so you need someone like that still inside the program. And so it's going to be interesting if Kyle makes the leap to Dallas with Dusty, or if Mike is able to get him to stick around in Ann Arbor. And then, you got the director of player development, Drew Williamson. You've got assistant Akeem Miskadeen. Remember Justin Joyner, who was a key assistant that was brought in from the West Coast at St. Mary's when Dusty started his tenure. He just took the head job at Oregon State. So you already lost one important piece. Dusty, obviously the most critical. So how many people they're able to keep? And then you got a guy like Modi Mayor, who was the most recent assistant basketball hire by Michigan. He's in the staff directory. He was not officially announced, but I was told he was coming. I was talking with him about Dusty last week, about what he liked and why he wanted to bring him here. What if Dusty clearly likes him. What if before him, while you're coming over, because he just led a title in Japan. Maybe while you're flying in from Tokyo, let's divert from Detroit to Dallas instead. There's a number of players that we'll get into that they have to keep, but don't overlook the staff. That 100%. Is something that's very important that they had fantastic continuity the past couple of years. And it really, while it's underappreciated, it can't be overlooked.
Look no further than the brain drain when Jim Harbaugh left, right? Where they were able to kind of duct tape it together to a certain degree in some situations, and in other situations you saw the glaring holes, like the special teams last year, right? Whereas everyone kind of got slotted up a notch. Everybody got slotted up and slotted up and slotted up. And then all of a sudden you're just you have holes all over the place. And that's what you have to be careful for this year. And Dusty, his job now is to do the best job he can for the Dallas Mavericks. And he's going to want people he's familiar with in an unfamiliar situation in the NBA, right? So they have all the NBA, stalwarts who are around there, and the front office is probably going to be filled out by Ujiri. He's going to want his people there too, to a certain degree. He's not going to want to fill it out with all NBA dudes.
No, that's really, for it being apples and oranges in situation and in sport, it's a great comp or a great it's a good warning or something to be heeded of what can happen when the staff is poached. Think about all the guys Jim brought with him to the Chargers, right? Or who left elsewhere, right? Jesse Minter, Jay Harbaugh, Mike Elston, Steve Klingscale, Dylan Roney, just on and on it went. And then Michigan is, like you said, upfilling these positions. And Sharon going from OC offensive line to head coach, right? And so now you're putting Grant Newsome up on the offensive line. Steve Kasula is moving from an analyst to fill Newsome's spot at the tight ends. Justin Trask takes over for Ben Herbert in the strength and conditioning. And we've heard a lot about how much that had fallen off over the past few years. So just because you have learned under someone doesn't doesn't mean that you will just immediately replace their shoes. Maybe one or two can do it, but if you're filling 6 spots or so, and there's no upfill within Michigan, right? There's not all these analysts. You're not going to be hiring a student manager or a GA, in all likelihood, a GA to fill an assistant basketball coach role. You'd have to look elsewhere. It's just, you just don't want to open that can of worms at all.
Yeah. They're going to want to stop the bleeding early. So, all right, let's take one more quick break, and then we're going to talk blame pie. Who is at fault the most for Dusty May leaving Michigan basketball for the Dallas Mavericks? Stick with us. We'll be right back. We're not going anywhere on the live. All right, and we're back talking blame pie. So for those of you who are not familiar, a pie, of course, is a circular object. So if we're going to give it 100%, think about it like a graph. We're giving percentages to the reasons why Dusty left, because ironically, we didn't plan for this, but we had someone comment with the name Fire Warde. So I think Warde Manuel is catching a lot of the grief for this. And maybe that's just because Michigan fans are fired up, sick and tired of all this turmoil and turnover in their athletic department. And on some level, I do understand that. But we both are under the impression that there was a biggest factor in Dusty leaving, and it wasn't necessarily that he didn't like working with Warde, right? It was something bigger at play. What do you think that was?
I think it was sort of how we started off this show, right? It's what I have it dubbed as is college grind, right? It's just eating mom's mastacholi on weekdays, flying from this corner of the country to that corner of the country, glad handing donors, speaking at events. It's all these things that you just don't have to do as an NBA coach, where you can simply coach ball, right? And I think that's really what Dusty wanted when he was becoming a head coach. He wanted to be a basketball coach. He didn't want to be a facilitator. He understood it come with being one of the faces of the university. There's going to be some of that, and he's willing to do it to a certain extent, but it had just become exponential in the past few years. And then, so I think that's maybe like half of it, like 50%. And then I don't know, maybe 40%, 45%, somewhere in there is just the allure of the NBA. It is the pinnacle of the profession that Dusty May has entered and made his life's mission. There are some things, we talked about it earlier, that there's an itch that can't be scratched, so to speak, at the college level that you can only get at the NBA level. You want to prove that you can be a National Basketball Association head coach champion and enter a very short list.
Only 30 jobs, right? There's this smaller percentage of jobs that are available. They don't come open that often, right?
Yep. And enter the world of the Larry Browns, which is fewer and few. There are so few coaches. I don't know. I should be able to name someone else off the top of my head who has led a team to it. Yeah,
Billy Donovan didn't win the title,
a team to a title in both levels, right? Billy Donovan obviously won at Florida. He did not win in Chicago. Larry Brown won at Kansas. He won with the Pistons. And so, that would put you in the uppermost echelon of all-time coaches if you could pull that off. And that would leave, I'd say, maybe 5 to 10% blame for Warde Manuel. And this is not to give Warde Manuel a pass. There have been many, 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 many faux pas during his tenure. The NCAA investigations, dual investigations into the football program. They're on probation. They were fined $30 million. The hiring Juwan Howard, which did not work out, having to reprimand him and suspend him after he smacked an assistant coach. How he handled the Mel Pearson, Wilmer Hale report when he got it in May and then didn't end up getting rid of Pearson until August, even though there seemed to be plenty of reason to do so. There's Sharon Moore. There's been an active investigation for months into the athletic department seeking who knew what, right? And if you're in charge of an athletic department, the buck stops with you. And so there has been many things that Warde has, I'd say, somewhere between slightly and gravely aired, many instances in which he has aired. But Jim Harbaugh, people still blame him for Jim Harbaugh leaving. There was nothing anybody was going to do that was going to keep Jim Harbaugh in Ann Arbor after they won that national championship. He was shopping himself in the NFL. That was the third year in a row. He had been trying to go to the NFL, and it just didn't work in 21 and 22. And then after they won it all, his name has never been hotter. There are impending sanctions coming. He was going to get, he has 14 years of show cause penalties. He can't even return to college until he's 71. And so there was one foot out the door. Dusty's situation was not like that, which is why you might think man, how did you not get this contract signed. But here's the thing. What Dusty told me was last week, the buyout, they had already agreed on the buyout and it wasn't changing. His buyout was still going to be $5 million. So even if he had signed a new contract, it was going to be the same penalty to pay to leave. And you can't force someone to sign a new contract that they don't want to sign, right? And Dusty was not going to, he did not want a higher buyout because he was intrigued by the idea of someday going to the NBA. And so, I mean, short of grabbing his hand, holding him down and signing the paper, which is obviously illegal, you couldn't force Dusty to sign this.
I think what Michigan fans were kind of looking for is that, like, lay your body in front of this, right? Like, okay, what are they offering you? 10 million, 11 million, 12 million, 13 million, 14 million. Stay for this year. Defend the title, defend the title, defend the title, right? Like, that's what, because that's how fans think, right? For better or worse. That's how they would be like, well, I have if I have Michigan's assets, and clearly they have a lot of money. Now, some of that's committed to these players, but they have money. Let's defend this title, right? Like, let's at least see that happen. And how much are they paying you? We'll match it. I think that's kind of the same energy that Michigan fans wanted. And we didn't hear much about that, right? It was kind of just like, all right, is he doing it or not? I think that would be maybe the only critique that would say, that you could put on Warde. But I also don't know how realistic that is with budgets and football program. You have a brand new staff of football coaches that they just had to pay out for for Utah to get all the buyouts and stuff from there. And it's like they don't. It's not like
they got a $40 million football roster. They got a $15 million basketball roster. And who's to say that? I mean, again, it is Warde's job, so you have to be in the know. You have to be proactive with these things, which I totally get. And again, I completely understand. If fans want to blame Warde, I see the path to doing it. That's just not
right.
What I just think there's much other things that were much more at play here than just Warde not finding a way to lock him in. And also, I'm going to read that comment in a minute. And also, Kyle Church up in Flint was saying how this materialized on Sunday night, right? And then the news was out before Dusty even went to tell Warde. Who's to say that Warde even knew? Maybe you should be catching wind like, hey, Dusty is interviewing with the Mavs. Like, I got to put a bug in his ear and I need that. That's what you're paid for. I get it. But what if and I think fans want to hear exactly what you said, that Warde did do that. Right? Like, Warde did do everything he could. He said, hey, we'll match the money. He can't drop the buyout because otherwise you had nothing holding him there. We'll give you the years. We'll give you the term. We'll give you more time on the plane. Like, whatever you need, we're here to do that. And Dusty had earned that, but maybe, and I think it's quite possible, Dusty just didn't even give them that chance. He got what he wanted in Dallas, and that was the decision he made.
Yeah. And Fire Warde has been interacting with us, so we'll get one more of his comments up here. He said that don't say Dusty is staying to get cheered at a celebration. It isn't even about you. He's, of course, talking about how they announced Dusty's coming back at the basketball celebration for the title. I think at the time, the expectation was that he was coming back, right? And that, to his knowledge, I would say that's a 50-50 fair comment. I would say it's not entirely unreasonable, but I also can understand why they made that announcement at the time, because they also did the same thing last year. And then you found out later that he hadn't even signed the contract until wasn't it summertime that he ended up signing the new contract? So there is some past examples of that happening, but also I could see why a Michigan fan would feel that way.
Yeah, no, I can too. But there was precedent for announcing that, hey, we've agreed to a deal in principle at one point and then signing the T's or crossing the T's and dotting the I's later, right? Again, I was talking about, I think it was Front Office Sports that Dusty May went on this offseason. And he said on a podcast that as far as he was concerned, when they shook hands, that deal was done. He's like, this is a done deal in my mind. I'm planning to sign it in July, and I don't concern myself with it really beyond that. And that's what he was telling me. He was still negotiating with Michigan or fixing a few what he called minor details earlier in the week. I met with him last Wednesday, and he said in the past couple days we've been going back and forth on a couple things, and
we have to wonder now, hearing that, if that was partially because Warde didn't hear about this Dallas situation, was like, okay, well, where do we have to sweeten the pot, right? Because he's saying they're little things. And end of the day, I don't think that this decision was mostly about money, maybe partially so, but it was, I think, mostly about the allure of the NBA and the college grind, more so than money.
Yep. And it's all of it. Even a little factor, every factor, like we've all had, I don't think many of us, I know you or I have not, and I don't think most of our listeners right now have ever had been in the decision or had to make a decision about, do I stay for $7 million? Do I go here for $12 million? But everyone has had a tough decision to make in their life, right? And sometimes you have to, literally write it down. What are the pros and cons of this? What are the pros and cons of this? And part of that is like, can my stock get higher? How does my stock get higher than leading Michigan to the greatest season it's ever had and winning a national championship and having absolutely nothing but overachieving success in both years I was there? I just proved I can do it at this level. After I proved I could bring FAU to the Final Four, my work here is done. I need to strike while this iron is hot. I don't think he was worried. I think he felt like they could get to Detroit this year, where the Final Four is going to be in their backyard. But even if he did it, right? What are you going to be? Maybe you could hope JJ Redick's going to even be the coach of the Lakers, it wasn't just brand that Dusty was looking for. He was looking for a big market. He was looking for a rising superstar. He was looking for runway. He was looking for assets. And we've talked about the draft pick, the cap space. Dusty's not stupid, right? He was not going to just leave for the NBA just to say he is going in the NBA and just take a shot. He knows that, hey, I'm going to have one real shot at this. Maybe if it doesn't work, maybe who knows what's going to happen down the line. Maybe I'll get another NBA job. Maybe I'll return to college. Who's to say? Only Dusty is to say. But he knows that if he is going to make this decision now, he has to feel supremely confident that he has an idea, that it aligns, like you said, with Masai Ujiri, who was just brought in. They're going to be tied at the hip, and that the way we see this thing going, we are in lockstep as best as he can make that assessment in 48 hours.
Yeah, well, the one thing that does have to feel a little bit better for Michigan fans is that, when Beilein left for that Cavs situation, everyone's like, what? This isn't even that appealing of a situation, right? And then this one, at least you're like, okay, well, Cooper Flagg, number 1 overall pick. Kyrie Irving's still on the team, right? They have 2 solid centers and Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. They have dudes who they could flip, even if they want to, so say they want to take Mara, for example, at number 9. They could take Mara and they still have big guys they could flip, or they could do a rotation. They have true options in a team that is in relatively good shape. And it's not like the expectations are through the roof right now because they were so bad last year. Another positive. All that went into the decision for him to say yes, but I still get why it's hard for Michigan fans to swallow. Who he cutting out? I want specifics.
Well, I'll take a couple percent off here and there, and I'm going to give 2 to 3% to Nico Harrison, the former general manager of the Dallas Mavericks, because if he does not trade Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis and then Anthony Davis to the Wizards and begin this ripple effect and end up, and then the Mavs are no longer as good, then Jason Kidd gets fired, then they bring in a new GM. If all these dominoes don't fall, Dusty May's not there. And so I think Nico Harrison is partially to blame. Michigan fans should make sure you have some ire for Nico Harrison as well.
Just what Nico needs, more people who are just pissed off at him, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. All right. Well, we're going to discuss some, transfer portal stuff, but I think we're kind of running out of time here. And I want to save some of that stuff for down the line, because obviously this is the story of the summer now. We still have a Michigan football regime that's starting over with Kyle Whittingham. But for the next few weeks, I think this is going to be the thing to talk about. So we'll be watching who's coming in or who's going out potentially. And if Michigan's able to stop that bleeding there with the roster, with the staff. So stick with us at freep.com/sports. We'll have all your coverage on that, all the interactions. We'll be tuned in to not just Trey McKinney, but also who on the staff is important. If Kyle Church, right? We got all that. We'll have all that covered for you on our website. So check that out. You got one more thing to say, Tony?
Yeah, I do. Sorry. Okay. I know you're rolling there, but just I will be doing my best to stay on top of it. The timing of news is not always great, and I'm leaving for my honeymoon on Friday, where I'm supposed to be unplugged, but I think I'm going to be a little more plugged than I otherwise had intended to be. But I need to get approval from the wife as well, because you want the honeymoon to go well. The job will be here. But yes, but there are many other capable bodies. I just wanted to point out, if I'm quieter than you think I would be during a situation like this, there is a reason for it. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just needed to put that out there somewhere.
No, well said. No, thank you for adding that. So like I was saying, thank you to Robin Chan, who is our editor of the podcast, helps us set this up. Thank you to Ryan Wynn, our sports editor. And thank you to Nicole Avery Nichols, our editor at the Free Press, who makes all of this happen for us here. With that, we'll talk to you guys soon, and stick with us. It's going to be a busy time.
Draft night.